My project is on water preservation, water rights, water education, water acknowledgement, water. In my work, I'm often drawn to working with indigenous or native communities. I grew up in a home with a mother who and a grandmother and a great grandmother who are very much indigenous to their land. So these ways of thinking, these ways of ancient ways of wisdom has always been present in my life. And I think because of that, I naturally gravitate in knowing more about different communities, especially indigenous communities in the United States, in South America. Personally, coming from a place that is abundant with water, I've always taken it a little bit maybe for granted. There's always rain, there's always water, it's just water all over. It really brought a lot of attention to my relationship to water, and it really made me think about just how I think about water in my life, culturally, biologically. And I started really investing time in thinking about water, and also learning more about what's going on with water in the United States and also in the world. So when my friend put me in touch with Marissa, who is from Seneca Nation, it felt very natural. I felt like, of course, here I am. This is a project. This is the community I'm going to work with. Because of COVID, and as a lot of people are aware, Native communities have been extremely harshly impacted by COVID. And I wasn't. It just didn't feel right to go and visit, although they were all very open with my having me come. I still felt like I needed to be responsible and also respectful of what was going on. So we did a lot of communication via Facebook, via Zoom, and we talked, we share. I get to know stories. I also get to tell them stories about my own people and about Ecuador. And it was a very fluid relation conversation. So the few visits that I had were very full. I had it was a packed calendar of meeting all these different people that they had schedule me to meet. So it was extremely generous. And the issues around water are so important. They felt also very happy to have me and to have someone who is that is interested in these issues and bringing awareness to them. So it was a very fluid relation, and that's how this whole project began. But it was so magical how it all happened. And it just also makes me think about the importance of sharing and being open and staying open. We all play a role in how we want to speak and how we want to engage with climate change and water preservation and our own relation to water. For me, I always go back to the question of, what can I contribute? How can I be my authentic self, and at the same time contribute something to this greater conversation? And from that idea comes the way that I photograph, the way that I see. It's just from repeatedly and constantly asking myself, how can I contribute and how can I be authentic to myself? Because I know that the viewers will see that. They will see when something is done with care and with authenticity. I think that as a woman, we have a very particular sensitivity, and and it's not surprising to me that everyone that I'm working with is a woman. It was like a natural gravitational pull, where it's just like we speak a similar language. We really do. Our bodies do. And here we are, we're doing this project. I learn a lot from community and engaging with community. There's always a new set of eyes, a new set of understanding my own art when I share it with someone. And I want to give the example my with this project, with the We Women project that I did in Seneca Nation. It It really began with conversation. Community engagement to me begins it's so much about listening and really being aware and being attentive to what has been shared and what are the needs of that community, and how you get to hear that when you talk to different people and how that comes through. So with this project, it was a series of video calls, and we just talk and they just share, and then little by little it came up that a lot of them were weavers, and then it came up that a lot of them were beaters, and then it came up that a lot of them exchange their techniques and they share with one another, and the Seneca Nation is part of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. So they all exchange the way that they beat and the way that they do the weaving, and that I thought it was really magical and really beautiful. So when I came with my project and I said to them, I'm doing photography, this is my craft, and how can we combine your craft and my craft and create something new that speak to what is going on? It was a very natural uh, connection or weaving into what came out. And so we talked a lot, and that's how then we focus the conversation a little more to water. And then we talk about water and we talk about the different places, and then there were stories. So it was really beautiful how just also by me sharing who I am and actively engaging with their craft and having that conversation with craft to craft, all these other stories came up, which also became part of the project. So now I'm also getting invited by other communities saying, oh, like we also have water issues, so come and do something with us. So it's like that awakening of the spark of like it happens, it can happen. We can have our voices heard if we unite and share. My goals for the individuals that look at this project, wherever they're from, is for them to examine their relationship with water. Where does their tap water come from? How far, what is the distance that it takes for the origin of that water to come into their tap? What is the quality of that water? What are the waters that surround the places that you live? It might be ponds, it might be streams, it might be lakes, it might be rivers, it might be waterfalls, it might be the ocean. Like, how do you relate to all these different bodies of water, sweet and salt water? And then how would you also, in terms of acknowledgement, what are the native names of the waters around you? And just learning like what are those words, what are those names, and calling them by their ancient and native names. That's just a beautiful way of acknowledgement, of not acknowledging and bringing a different conscious into our relationship to water. And then I would say, collectively speaking, how can we get more involved in having our waters be clean? In regionally, nationally, internationally, there's so many places around the world that in the United States that do not have clean water. Places like in the desert that water is a privilege to have. It's very scarce. Also, in some places in the West. And I think that becoming aware of like how can we keep our water clean and how can we know more about what's happening with the water, it's part of my goal. I mean, water is life. So how can we support that life? The people in the community that I'm working with, they're so wise, they're so engaged, they have such a humor, such a charisma, such a positive attitude towards life, and so much knowledge of history, present, and how they want their future to unfold.